Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode number 198. I am Brendan. Let's talk about UFC Fight Night. Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Iwan Cutelaba. Even though it was not supposed to be them, it was supposed to be Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak, I believe. It's unfortunate that this is what we ended up with because I'm going to be honest, it's hard to get up for these caliber of fights. This was a fight night. Anyway, we're going to talk about Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Chase Sherman, Andre Fialho versus Muslim Salikhov, Della. So this is going to be the main card. If you're looking for the prelims, I'm going to do that in the next video. Subscribe to the channel if you like this stuff so you know the next videos are coming out. And let's get started. Holy moly. Okay. Like I said at the top. Oh, also, if you're looking for a specific fight breakdown, it's going to be down in the description. So the timestamps are down below. Okay, so first things first. Let's talk about the main event. 3 rounds, not 5. Iwan Cutelaba versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. Hard to get up for this one. I mean, I wasn't excited about this anyway. I was expecting Kennedy to win. Almost exactly how he did win. I expected him to kind of like have a lackluster first round, and then Iwan was going to get tired, and he was going to get the finish in the second round. Again, I didn't put money on this, and I would never put money on any of my opinions. It's more just like what I felt was going to happen, and that's what happened. Iwan's should probably get cut from the UFC, to be honest with you. This is not a good win for anybody at this point. Anybody in the UFC beating Iwan, you can talk about like, oh, the level of competition he's fought and look how good they are. I understand that. But the dude, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's 1-7-1. I mean, he's got a pretty crappy UFC career, to be honest with you. Yes, he's an action fighter. I get that, but not good. This was not good. Like I said, it's hard to get up for this one. You know, Kennedy's had a really good run here. Losing to Nikolai Negamarianu and Dao Zhang, I get that. But being Carl Robertson, that was a good win. And now Iwan Cutelaba. Again, Kennedy has a lot of holes in his game, and he's going to get exploited when he faces people like Negamarianu, who is not, a top-tier fighter right now. Dao Zhang, not a top-tier fighter. He's making improvements, it looks like, but it's not like he's coming in looking like a brand new fighter every time. He has the exact same look about him where he's a slow starter, takes a little bit in the first round to get going, and then in the second round, hopefully he can work his magic. So if you go in there with bad cardio, you're going to have problems. But in this case, first round, Iwan landed some hard low kicks, 2 right overhands, rocking Kennedy a little bit, and then immediately goes for the takedown, the body lock. And then he used the trip. Look in this first round, he had 3 minutes and 32 seconds of control time. Kennedy had some control time near the end of the round, but really didn't land anything with it. This was clearly Iwan's round, 10-9. Second round, immediately, Kennedy starts landing some good shots. He landed a knee as Iwan went for a takedown. Iwan then threw a errant kick that landed right in Kennedy's nutsack, but he didn't want to take a pause because he knew that if he did, that Iwan would recover. So he works through that and gets to take TKO. Like I said, he's got too many weaknesses to be a consistent contender, unless he makes like giant improvements. But the dude's already what? Yeah, he's 30 years old, and I understand that he's a light heavyweight, but that doesn't mean just because you can get better and you can compete longer in the heavier divisions doesn't mean your body is any different, right? Generally speaking, how much are you going to improve? Like, what are the kind of skills that you're going to pick up in your in your 30s? Not a whole bunch, so I would argue that, his fighting style is kind of gonna be this way. Now he can do some different technique stuff and different game plan things, but I don't know if he's gonna necessarily make leaps and bounds. It's a good win for him. Iwan should get cut. I've never been. It's been a long time since I've gotten excited for one of his fights because I know he's an action fighter, but the dude loses like nonstop. He does stupid shit and then loses. Okay, Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Chase Sherman. This cat's back. Both of them, that is. Chase Sherman started out sticking to the jab and hard low kicks. You can see here in the first round, Sherman landed 8 of 9 leg kicks. Problem is, he kind of stopped doing that. He was landing decent shots, but Acosta was swinging really big. Waldo landed some decent combos. Chase was still digging in on that front leg, and because Waldo was worried about the low kick, it opened up some of the 1-2s from Sherman. But you can see on the total strikes, Cortes-Acosta definitely won out as far as damage goes, 29-18. Sherman got a takedown at the end of the round, but didn't really do anything with it. I think he had like 10 seconds worth of. Oh, it doesn't even show it when he got the takedown. I think the takedown was at the 10-second mark, so he didn't get anything for it. 10-9 for Acosta on my card. Acosta landed really big, and then he started unloading in the second round. Sherman survived, but out in the open, Acosta was finding the mark like nonstop. This second round was a total blowout, 71-21 in favor of Acosta. I said you could score that at 10-8 if you wanted. I mean, I didn't because Sherman was still landing, and I don't know how close it was to being ended. Sherman also did get kicked in the nuts, but he didn't get a break because the referee didn't see it, apparently, even though his leg was held up, and it was... Anyway. And then in the third round here, the fact that Waldo is this tired and can't dominate a guy like Sherman shows you that he's not ready for the big time just yet. Okay, despite all the showboating and bullshit dancing that he was doing mid fight, taking those leg kicks and taking the damage that he did against a guy like Sherman shows you that he's really not ready. He's not. All right, so just a real quick look at Chase Sherman just to show you the caliber of opponent. Waldo Cortes-Acosta has beaten here. The dude has 4 wins in the UFC out of... Oh, good grief. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. So he's 4-10 in the UFC. And he's 16-11 overall. Not a great record. The reason he's back in the UFC is because he stepped up on short notice to fight Alexander Romanov. That's the only reason he got his job back in the UFC. And I don't know what the UFC's plans are with him going forward. My guess is they're probably going to cut him again. But Cortes-Acosta beating Sherman doesn't tell me anything. In fact, well, it tells me the opposite. It tells me that Cortes-Acosta might not have the power that he thinks he does. And, they're heavyweights. Everybody hits hard at heavyweight. Yes, some people hit harder. But, maybe the people he was walking through outside the UFC, maybe they weren't as good as he thought they were. And if a guy like Sherman can hang in there for 3 rounds and take a ton of punishment versus him, I mean, it was a one-way fight for most of the time. Don't get it twisted. He won 30-27, but it just wasn't. He got tired, so his game plan sucked. His experience level, I know it could get there, but that kind of sucked too. And he's got a lot of work to do. And if he went in there and smoked Sherman, or he just truly dominated him, didn't take any damage, just did whatever he wanted, was picking his shots, I think he should have finished him, to be honest with you. But had he done any of those things, now we're talking about a guy who's, okay, let's get him a step up in competition. But from what I saw here, we're probably going to have to keep him fighting no less than named people for a little bit. All right, shall we go to another beatdown? Andre Fialho versus Muslim Salikhov. Salikhov getting the TKO victory in the third round here. First round was a little bit different than that. So Fialho landed the better shots on the feet. He was doing really well. Salikhov got a takedown, but he didn't really do much with it here in the first round. Um, Salikhov was having issues with the extended combinations of Fialho. So Fialho was landing really well, and he was landing the bigger shots at the end of the combinations. Really? The striking numbers were dead even, 11-11. I really felt like he did better than that. But anyway, um, I had the round for Fialho, and it's just maybe it's just the volume because he did throw more. He threw 38 as opposed to Muslim only throwing 22. And yes, I understand if people want to talk about it. Oh well, he didn't land those shots, and look how accurate Salikhov was. I get that. I don't want to explain it again, but which guy was being more aggressive? The guy who attempted 22 shots or the guy who attempted 38? Considering they both landed the same amount. So all other things being equal, the guy who was throwing more. Hard shots to the body of Fialho really slowing him down. Some stabbing kicks, hooks to the body, and spinning back kick. Salikhov was really starting to unload. He landed a spinning back fist, then a spinning heel kick, but Fialho was still standing in there. That guy does have a crazy chin, and it's going to cost him in the long run. The guy takes way too much damage. Muslim rocked him with a leaping right hand, and Fialho spins and loses his balance, falls on the ground, and then he was just holding on to recover. In my opinion, the second round was probably a 10-8 because Muslim was able to do a ton of damage. So 37-5 as far as the striking numbers go, but the damage was really one way, and I felt like he only almost had him finished a couple times on the feet. There's moments there where you could say if he landed a couple of shots we saw it that would happen in the last round. So I had it 19-18 in favor of Muslim, and then going into the final round here. So it wasn't even tied going into this round because Fialho, even though I gave Fialho the first round, the second round was a 10-8 for Salikhov. This last round here, Salikhov landed a spinning back kick to the body real hard. Fialho partially dropped, but he threw back. Then he took a spinning heel kick to the head. And the fight ends up getting stopped, even though he's protesting. He started protesting the stoppage. I understand that he was still with it, and he thought he could hang in there. And I get it. I get it. I'm not mad at that stoppage. I feel like he even though he might have been technically intelligently defending himself, he was taking way too much damage. Shots that were actually landing. All right, Danny Roberts taking on Della Maddalena. One-way traffic yet again. Guys, man. All right, so let me tell you. Watching this card, of all the fights that we've covered so far, I wouldn't recommend going back to watch any of them. In fact, based off of the next fight, the first fight on the card, I wouldn't recommend watching that one either. So if you made it this far in my video and you're wondering whether or not any of these are worth watching, unless you're a completionist like me and you really have to watch everything, I would just skip them. There's not much to see here, guys. There's not much to take away, and we lost our main event. Like this, just real hard. Anyway, Maddalena landing hard shot to the body, and now upstairs. Roberts worked his way off the fence, even though he took a big shot early, taking a ton of damage. Maddalena landing a right uppercut, and Roberts went to his back because he took that big shot. Roberts was moving his head, but the thing is, Jack was following through and finding the big shot. So Roberts was doing this thing where he was actually bobbing and weaving pretty well, where he would move his head off the center line and try to avoid some of the shots. The thing is, Jack was following with his eyes, so he was able to keep his head up, keep his eyes open, and look at the target and really dial it in. And he was landing shots despite Roberts. Damn it, focus. This despite Roberts' movement, he was able to land really good shots on him, and it started to add up. We can see here on the numbers, 33-5 in favor of Jack here. One-way traffic. Maddalena hurt him to the body and then followed up to get the TKO victory here in the first round. 3 minutes and 24 seconds. Okay. One more fight left on the main card here. Wow, we are breezing through these. There's really not much to talk about. Like I promised if there was implications or anything, we'd go over it, but there just wasn't. All right. Charles Johnson versus Zhalgas Zhumaulov. We're going to talk about this. This was a split decision, and they got it wrong. They got this one wrong. Yeah. Yeah, they sure did. Fucking idiots. What we should do, though, is go look at the scorecards. Uh-huh. I wonder what... Yeah, I want to see how each judge scored it, because I have a feeling... I have a feeling that these... there's going to be a little bit of... not controversy necessarily, because I don't think anybody watched this shit, to be honest with you, and there's not a... really? How are you going to tell me there's no scorecards out? Give me a break. Give me a break. There we go. Okay, we do have them. Okay. Oh, look at that. Adelaide Bird and Saul D'Amato were both working tonight. And I've been nice to Saul D'Amato. I've been nice to him. And I've been calling him out for making decent decisions lately. But him and his buddy over here really fucked us up. We're going to go over it. Okay. So, by the way, this was, again, I'm going to break it down, but do not go back and watch this fight either. It was a shit show. So many fouls, bunch of bullshit, lots of stopping. On top of that, they got the decision wrong. It was all bad. Not a lot to see here. All right. Leg kicks back and forth, and Johnson scrapes the eye of Zhalgas with the palm. So he reached out like this, and then the palm of his hand right here, the tape, actually scraped the eye of Zhumaulov. That's technically not illegal, but how is, Zhumaulov isn't going to be able to tell what's touching his eye. All he feels is something hit his eye. So there was a stoppage, but they sped it up and made it go again because that's not a foul. Zhalgas really tight. He was putting a ton behind his shots. He was landing hard, landing some low kicks, some hooks to the body. Zhalgas landed a couple right straights and even getting a knee tap, making Johnson think about the takedowns. Johnson finally having some good moments, landing the jab and following up with the 1-2. But then he landed a kick right to the nuts. Right, so he kicks Zhalgas right to the nuts. Some good right hands after the break for that. Some good right hands landing over the top from Zhalgas, and then he got the takedown. Nothing happened from it. It got right back up, but both guys had their moments in this round. The pressure and the damage went the way of Zhumaulov. So this first round was Zhumaulov's 43-32 in favor of Zhalgas. The bigger shots came from him. More damage came from him. Honestly, the biggest damage that Charles landed in this round was to the nuts of Zhumaulov. I don't see... I mean, I understand, 11 strikes is the striking differential for Zhalgas. I don't know how you could give this to Johnson. Here's where it is. Here's where it is right here. Zhumaulov landed 18 leg kicks. I still don't see it because the head strikes. Johnson landed 5 more, 15-10, whereas leg kicks were 18-2 in favor of Zhumaulov. And they did add up because in the last round, you could tell it was affecting Johnson. Anyway, I went Zhalgas for that first round. I don't think that's controversial. Second round here, Johnson a little tender on that lead leg, having to switch stances. He either misstepped or it was bothering him because he was moving weird a couple times, and we could see in the third round that I think he was bothered by the damage that was done by Zhalgas. Zhalgas said there was an eye poke from Johnson, but Keith Peterson said no because he didn't see it, but we saw it on the replay that there was an eye poke. And then Zhalgas in the clinch against the fence, he landed a knee to the cup himself. So after the eye poke, that didn't get called, and because he got kicked in the nuts himself, we can say, oh, all's fair, even's even. No, it's not, because he's already been poked in the eye an additional time. So Johnson is 2 fouls to Zhalgas' 1 foul. Zhumaulov using the lead left hook to the body and coming over the top with the right hand, landing a couple times. So he did this combo where he would lead in with the left hook, and he would go low to the body, and then he would come over the top with the right because he was a shorter fighter. And it worked beautifully. I think he landed that combination. I know he landed at least twice, but I think like 3 or 4 times, like he landed both shots in this round. It was beautiful. Really well done. Johnson had a good round. I mean, he was landing damage himself. It wasn't that he was just a freaking heavy bag out there. He wasn't just a sitting duck. But look at the striking numbers again, 46-33 in favor of Zhumaulov. All right, in this third round, this is where it gets interesting. Because, well, first of all, Johnson started the third round with another kick to the nuts, which is really stupid. So he kicked Zhumaulov to the nuts. Now there was no point deduction. But let's talk about that right now. Whether it's an accident or not, intent is irrelevant. I've said this every time. I will stand by that. Stand by my opinion. Intent is irrelevant when it comes to the effect of the foul on the other fighter or the fight itself. Okay? Whether you intended to kick him in the nuts or whether you intended to grab the fence, what happened because of those things? Okay? In this case, we saw that Zhumaulov was not moving well in this last round. It seemed that he was kind of gassed out. And my guess is because his testicles were in his fucking throat from getting kicked there twice. Okay? And here's the thing. I thought it was an accident. One guy's Johnson's tall, Zhumaulov is short. Shit happens. There's some weird stuff that happens. I get it. Doesn't matter. I don't care. Control your tools. If you poked him in the eye 5 times, you're going to say, oh, well, they were all accidents. Okay, well, that accident is happening because you're doing something. So whatever you're doing that leads to that accident, you better stop it. You shouldn't even be warned. You were already warned before you walked into the octagon. So when it came to this nut kick, the fact that he didn't lose a point for this pissed me off because it was the second time with the same foul. Same foul. Okay, this isn't a new one. This isn't an eye poke. This isn't an fence grab, right? This isn't a shot to the back of the head. This isn't the using one free of each kind of foul. He did this one twice. I don't understand how you can argue that him getting poked in the eye and kicked in the nuts twice doesn't have effect on the fight. At least 1 point's worth. In this last round, Zhalgas did something to Johnson because his right leg was bugging him. He wasn't able to move on it really well. He was stomping it, trying to get it to wake up. Johnson, despite that, was putting the pressure on him. He put the pressure on him, landed really big. I guess all those nut strikes from Zhalgas really, really paid dividends down here. Johnson won that last round, right? He won the last round, all things being considered. 50-30 as far as striking numbers go. I felt like he landed the better shots. I felt like he did more damage. And despite committing the foul, I think he should have gotten a point taken away. But I still had the fight going 29-28 in favor of Zhalgas. Okay, so let's talk about why the judges got this one wrong. I've already given my reasoning why I think the first 2 rounds, but let's see here. Okay. So all 3 judges gave that first round to Zhumaulov. All 3 judges gave the first round to Zhumaulov. And all 3 judges gave the last round to Charles Johnson. I agree with that. So what what do you think persuaded Derek Clearly and Saul D'Amato to give this second round to Charles Johnson? Hmm? You think it was control time? Because it was exactly the same. You think it was total strikes? Because Zhumaulov won that. You think it was significant strikes? Because there was actually a bigger differential in this round than there was in the previous round. I mean, are they going off of the last 4 strikes that Johnson threw? Do they think that he rocked Zhalgas and only one judge saw it the right way? This is a bad decision. This is bad. And this is how we started a card, like the main card of a fight night that lost its main event already. Ugh. Yeah, I know. I'm not the most energetic about this. It's just hard to be. It was like the fights weren't horrible. The fights were fine. We had a lot of early finishes, exciting fights, things are happening, but a lot of them were one-way beatdowns. And then on top of that, they don't have any implications that make them exciting, right? When you have exciting fights like this on a card or you have fights like this that are on a card that has a main event, like, you know, uh, like what was supposed to be here, Spivak, the up-and-comer versus Derek Lewis. All this stuff adds up to the main event. But when you get rid of that that wasn't a strong main event to begin with, but it's a fight night, so it's fine. And then you get rid of that. Dude, this card fell apart fast. Fell apart fast. And I wouldn't expect any of you guys to go back and watch this if you didn't watch it already. I think I've spent enough time talking about how shitty this was. If you're looking for the Bellator cards or card, it's in my last 2 videos. I covered that this weekend, and if you're looking for the prelims, it's going to be in the next one. If you like breakdowns, if you like this kind of stuff, if you made it this far, subscribe to the channel so you know the next video is coming out. If this is the only video you watch this weekend, I appreciate your time. The fact that you made it to the end means a lot to me. Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing week, and I love y'all.